Hello and welcome back to another video. So as you can see, I've had a delivery from Noctua. I've got their top of the line CPU cooler. So it's the NH-D15 Chromax Black edition. I've also got some white heatsink covers for the CPU cooler. And I've also got a whole range of their Chromax Black fans. I've got two different types of fans. So there's the NF-S12A, which is optimized for airflow. And I've also got the NF-F12, which is optimized for static pressure. Over here, I've got my latest build in the Lian-Li Lancool 2 case. So when you put all this together, it can only mean one thing, and that is that today I'm going to be testing the air-cooled performance of this case using the very best that Noctua has on offer. So I'm going to do this in two parts. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to replace all the LL120 fans in this build with the Chromax Black fans. I'm obviously going to use the fans that are optimized for airflow as case fans and the fans that are optimized for static pressure on the radiator of the AIO. Once I've replaced all the fans, I'm going to judge the effect in three categories. So I'm going to see what it does aesthetically, I'm going to see what it does with the thermal performance, and I'm going to see how it affects the noise. Following that, I'm going to remove the AIO and add in the NH-D15, and I'm going to repeat the judging process, looking at how it affects the build aesthetically, what it does for thermal performance, and what it does with the noise. Okay, so let's get building.
Burning bridges to the ground. Take away what's left of me. Blinded by the ones I lost, connecting lines of which we crossed, dropped off the scene at side, wishing to have one more fight left in me. The life I see, what's left in me. Burning bridges to the ground. Take away what's left of me. Burning bridges to the ground. Blinded by the light ahead, thought about just what you said. Connecting lives is what you planned. After all, let's take a chance. Turning dust into diamonds, turning love into guidance. A second chance, let us commence. That's what I love. The life I see, what's left in me.
Okay, so before I come on to give you the results of my testing, I want to give you my thoughts on the Noctua components themselves. So the fans come really well packaged. In the packaging together with the fan, you've got a range of anti-vibration pads in different colours. You've got an extension cable for the fan and 4 screws. The fans themselves look great, they feel premium, and when you spin them round, there's almost no noise at all from them. I had no trouble at all installing the anti-vibration pads on the fans. I suppose my only issue with them would be that there's only 4 in each colour. And while if you're using them solely as anti-vibration pads, you're only going to really need 4 of them. But I think anybody who's buying these fans, they're going to be using the anti-vibration pads together with the theme of their build. So it would have been nice to have 8 of the same colour so you could use them all on your fans, because what I've had to do is I've had to put 4 white on the top and 4 black at the bottom. The only other issue I had with the fans was due to the length of the extension cable supplied. When I had my LL120 fans installed at the top, I had no problem running the cable down the back of the case, in the bottom, and then plugging into one of the fan headers at the bottom of the motherboard. But the fan cable supplied with the Noctua fans is too short to allow you to do this. In fact, with this fan installed over here, I had struggled to run it around the back of the case to get to the fan header on the top right of the motherboard. And the only way I could route that cable was to actually leave it in front of the motherboard, hidden behind other cables. So that's something you are going to have to factor in if you're going to use these fans. You might want to buy longer extensions or use a fan hub rather than trying to plug it all the way into your motherboard, because the route I had to take with some of the cables was less than ideal and it left more of the cables on display than what I would have liked. Okay, so going on to look at the CPU cooler itself. Again, this came really well packaged. All the components felt really premium. The instructions were straightforward and easy to follow, and I had no trouble at all installing it in this case. I think the addition of the white heatsink covers really adds to this build, and these come in a range of colours so you can get them to match your particular build. The fans themselves can be installed in a variety of positions on the heatsinks, so I had no trouble at all clearing my RAM and then still been able to get the glass panel to close at the front. There was only one slight thing I would like Noctua to change, and that would be to include the same range of colours of anti-vibration pads for these fans as you do with the Chromax Black case fans. Somebody who's going to install this cooler, the chances are they're probably going to use the Noctua Chromax Black case fans. And the case fans come with a range of colours that you can change the anti-vibration pads to. While the fans on the heatsink, they only come with black anti-vibration pads already installed, and there was no additional box containing a range of colours that you can swap these out for. Okay, so as I've mentioned, I'm going to judge the effect of adding these Noctua components into my Lancool 2 in 3 different categories. Firstly, in aesthetics. Secondly, we're going to look at acoustics. And then finally, we're going to go on and look at the effect on thermal performance. So first thing, aesthetics. And the big problem with this is it's subjective. So all I can do is give you my opinion on the aesthetics, and I'll leave you to make up your own judgment on what you think based on the footage that I've shot of the different builds. So I loved my original build. I'm not a big fan of lots of RGB in different colours and lots of flashing lights in different patterns, but having it all set to white, I think made it look really good, and the white light lighted up the case. The other thing with an AIO is that it doesn't take up a lot of room in the centre of your case, and it lets you see your motherboard and all the different components that you've got installed. So the first thing I did was I replaced all the LL120 fans, which I think are great looking fans, with the Noctua fans. And with the power turned off, I was quite impressed with how it looked. The white anti-vibration pads on the black fans looked really good and fitted in well with my black and white theme. When I turned the power on, I was a little bit more disappointed because the white glow that was coming off all my fans previously was gone and they were just plain black. And they didn't throw off the same light lighting up the case, and it looked a little bit dark to my particular taste. Again, somebody else may well like that. Next thing I did was I installed the CPU killer. And again, this is just personal taste. For me, this was taking up too much room in the center of the case. But that's going to be the problem with any air cooling. It's not, Noctua killer is not on its own here. I have a very expensive motherboard at the back, and I'm not really able to see any of it. Likewise, the fan completely blocks my RAM, which does have an RGB feature on it, and I can't see that. The other problem for me was I had to install my graphics card in a horizontal orientation instead of vertical, which I much prefer, because there was no way for the vertical GPU to fit between here and here. So I think summing that up, again, it's just my personal opinion. I think I'm going to have to give first place for aesthetics to my original build with the 360mm AIO and the all LL120 fans from Corsair. In second place, however, I actually think this current build, where you've got all Noctua components, I prefer it over the Noctua fans on the AIO. I think if you're going to go all Noctua, it looks slightly better than half Noctua fans on the AIO. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is the acoustics, and this is one area where Noctua have a great reputation. They're widely regarded as making some of the quietest fans around. And this was an area I wasn't so happy with my original build. While the Corsair LL120 fans look great, they weren't the quietest fans around, and certainly when my computer was under load, the fan noise was becoming quite annoying. And in fact, if I wanted to use it for recording any audio, it was quite difficult given the background noise coming from the PC. So the first test that I did was to record the noise level of the PC in both idle and during an AIDA64 stability test. And I looked at all three versions of the build. So there was my original build with the AIO and all LL120 fans. There was the second stage where I replaced all the LL120 fans with Noctua fans. And then there's this final stage where we've got all the Noctua fans, but also the Noctua CPU killer. So unfortunately I don't have any professional equipment to record noise levels, so I ended up using an app on my iPhone, with the iPhone just held in front of the case with the front panel on. So important to say this isn't the most accurate method, but I was keen to have a few numbers to share with you. Okay, so looking first at my original build at idle, it had a noise level ranging between 34 and 38 decibels. When I replaced all the LL120 fans with Noctua fans, this brought the noise level down to 32 to 35 decibels. When I replaced the AIO with the Noctua CPU killer, there was no change in the noise levels, also staying at 32 to 35, indicating that the important step in bringing the noise down was actually replacing the fans rather than the CPU killer itself. So the next thing I did was I carried out an AIDA64 stability test on each of the three builds and recorded the noise level during that. So my original build with the AIO and all LL120 fans had a noise level of 47 to 48 decibels. Swapping out all the fans to Noctua's reduced the noise level down to 44 to 45 decibels. And then replacing the AIO with a Noctua CPU killer, the noise level was 45 to 47 decibels. Okay, so I think it's clear from my testing that the Noctua fans are quieter than the Corsair fans that I had used in my original build. And if you just look at the numbers on paper, that difference might not seem that significant. But I can certainly tell you from listening to the two different PCs, one with the Noctua, one with the Corsair fans, there is a massive difference. And I don't know if it's all due to noise level, and I think it's probably due to the tone of the fans. When the Corsair fans are up high, there's a whining noise coming from the PC, which is really irritating to listen to. When the Noctua fans are up high, although they're audible, the tone coming from them is actually not as unpleasant to the ear as that coming from the Corsair fans. So although you can hear them, they don't annoy you quite as much. So I think it's probably a combination. The fans been a little bit quieter and the noise coming from them been more acceptable to the ear. That means that certainly this PC is much more pleasant to have in the same room as you. Okay, so don't take my word for it. I have recorded a little bit of audio from each of the scenarios, so I'll let you make your own mind up. Okay, so moving on to thermal testing. So whenever I test any of my builds, there's 3 tests I like to do. The first thing is I leave Windows running with no programs in the background and record the minimum CPU and GPU temperature over a 30-minute period and use that as my idle temperature. The next thing I do is I play Assassin's Creed Odyssey for 30 minutes and record the maximum CPU and GPU temperature. Final thing I do is I run an AIDA64 stability test with all components in the PC being stressed and record the maximum CPU and GPU temperature during that time period. I control the room temperature to 20 degrees C. Okay, so let's have a look at the results. Okay, so you can see the thermal results of my original build in the first column. So that was with a 360mm AIO in the front and all LL120 fans. Next thing I did was I replaced the LL120 fans with Noctua fans and left the AIO in exactly the same location, obviously with Noctua fans on it as well. So that made absolutely no difference to the thermal testing at idle. So the minimum CPU temperature remained at 36 and the minimum GPU temperature at 32. So exactly the same at idle as my original build. During 30 minutes of gaming, adding the Noctua fans reduced the CPU temperature by 2 degrees down to 36 from 38 in my original build and made no difference to the GPU temperature remaining at 70. During the AIDA64 stability test, there was a 1 degree saving in CPU temperatures with the addition of the Noctua fans compared to 87 over my original build. GPU temperatures in both remained at 69, so no difference at all there. Next thing I did was I added the Noctua air cooler in and removed the AIO, and this resulted in a 1 degree increase in CPU temperature at idle, up to 37 versus 36 in the 2 previous builds. GPU temperature was 2 degrees cooler at idle, down to 30 from 32. During 30 minutes of gaming, CPU was running slightly hotter with this configuration, up to 71 at a max compared to 68 with my original build and 66 with the Noctua fans on the AIO. GPU temperature was again cooler, down to 67 versus 70 with the 2 previous configurations. Going on to look at during the AIDA64 stability test, and there was a significant increase in CPU temperatures up to a max of 94 here, compared to 87 with my original build and 86 with the Noctua fans on the 360mm AIO. And again, there was no difference in the GPU temperatures here across all 3 previous configurations. I did want to test one more thing, and in a previous video I had tested adding a 240mm AIO in the top of this case as an exhaust with all LL120 fans in the case. Looking at the important bits here, we had the same CPU temperature at idle compared to the all air-cooled Noctua build. However, this was actually resulted in a slightly hotter CPU during gaming, up to 73 versus 71 with the Noctua air cooler, and 96 versus 94 with the Noctua air cooler during an IDA64 stability test. Okay, so putting all that together, you're going to get the best cooling in this case with a 360mm AIO in the front as an intake. Second best is going to be the Noctua air cooler, and your third best option of the ones that I have tested is a 240mm AIO on the top set as exhaust. If you want to further increase your cooling potential, you can add the Noctua fans, which are optimized for static pressure, onto the radiator of your AIO. Okay, so to sum up my experience of adding these Noctua components into my Lancool 2 build, so I think the biggest improvement is definitely in the noise. This PC is just so much more pleasant to be sitting beside than it was before. Certainly adding the Noctua fans into the build has given me some of the best temperatures I have recorded in this case. And finally, when it comes to aesthetics, while in my personal opinion I preferred my original build, to get that improvement in cooling and noise levels, I'm not having to sacrifice very much. And this new Chromax lineup by Noctua looks absolutely great. And if you're somebody who doesn't want to put any water anywhere near your PC components, you can still have an absolutely stunning looking build using these Noctua components. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. If you have any queries or comments, please leave them for me and I'll get back to you. If you've liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to be notified about future videos. Thanks for watching.